What's up guys, I'm Griffin D, and today we are covering, has a woman ever made you feel truly uncomfortable? What happened? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. I was stalked by my ex while in college. It was heartbreaking to have to then file a restraining order and go through a trial to get the order. Got fondled by my babysitter's older daughter when I was 8 or 9, when I tried to ask her what she was doing, because I was a kid and had no idea about that stuff. She hit me down there and said to shut up. She was always mean, and it wasn't exactly traumatic, but man, it makes me cringe thinking about it. I had a female co-worker that was obsessed with me. She knew I had a girlfriend and wouldn't quit. She asked me to hang out all the time. Lunch, dinner, breakfast, etc. She would show up at Starbucks in the morning when I was getting my coffee and things like that. One day I showed up to work with sunburn and she told me she had nice soothing aloe vera lotion to put all over my burn at her apartment. Another day I had a cut over my eye from an accidental elbow playing basketball, and similar to the lotion she told me stopped by her apartment. Because she had the pain-soothing Neosporin for it, she came to my door once unannounced and told me she had 2 tickets to the Warped Tour an hour away, and had a hotel room booked already, and asked if I wanted to go. She would park near me all the time and sit in her car waiting for me to walk out so she could talk to me. She asked me to chaperone her to her wisdom teeth surgery, which I did, because you can't drive afterwards, but she took that as me showing interest. After almost 1.5 years and being married, she finally stopped. I had a crazy ex-girlfriend attack me with a box cutter one time. I wouldn't describe my feeling as uncomfortable, but more like running for my freaking life. Repeatedly asked by a coworker when I was gonna let her suck my dong. Went on 4 years. Yes, we met in a club, was in the taxi back to hers, and she said, when we get back I think I might kill you. I was like, what do you mean? And she said, I think I might stab you with a knife when we get back to mine. As soon as the taxi pulled over at hers, I told her to get out and frick off, because she made me feel really uncomfortable. Her response was, are you being serious? I wouldn't actually kill you. I live with my brother. My animal instincts wanted me to go in with her and hopefully get some of the old sex, but the voice in the back of my head was telling me not to risk it, because I have no idea who this girl is. So I told her to leave and got the taxi driver to take me home. I asked the taxi driver if I was being stupid or not, and he just said that he would have done the same thing, because she sounded nuts. Yes, I was sitting at a bar waiting on my wife to get off work. Not there. This woman came up to me and asked me to dance with her. I politely said no, that I was waiting for my wife, but she kept asking and lightly grabbing arm to let me onto the dance floor. I repeatedly kept saying no. She would leave and come back a few minutes later and start the process all over, while continuing to touch me, sometimes on arm or thigh or back of neck. Not a fan of physical contact. It didn't matter how stern I made my voice, she was not taking no for an answer. I was raped by a girl and her friends defended her. I went to a party with friends when I was 18. A girl that I'd never met before was there. The host of the party was our only mutual friend. She was just weird. Came on to me really strong in a desperate kind of way. I wasn't interested and was kind of creeped out, so I just said no thank you and went about my business at the party. Fast forward a month or so later and she arrives at another party. I had no idea she was coming, but didn't think anything of it. I was flirting with a different girl I went to university with. They both had pale skin and natural red hair. The creepy girl asked me if I was into redheads before flashing me her boobs, and I told her again that sorry, but I wasn't interested. She called me gay and left. I remember about 3/4 of that party, and I was barely drinking, maybe 4 standard drinks over 4+ hours, and I'm normally a comfortable drinker. I don't know how or when I left. I remember walking somewhere. I remember her on top of me somewhere dark, not being able to make out anything besides her skin color and hair. I remember having zero energy, and it taking me what felt like ages to even get the energy to tell her to get off me. I remember her telling me to shut up, putting her hand over my mouth. I remember her stopping riding me to give me a blowjob, before yelling at me for going soft, because she hadn't finished yet. I remember her crying and asking herself why what she'd given me at the party hadn't worked. I woke up in a bed I didn't recognize with a massive headache and walked 2 hours home. My friends told me I got super drunk and just left the night before without telling anybody. When I told them what happened, nobody said or did anything. They didn't deny it. They still don't. Just nobody says anything. I was told by the friends of the girl not to call the cops, and that they'd say that I raped her if I did. I didn't pursue it. Many years back I was out with my co-workers for drinks. A very attractive older woman was hanging out with us. I didn't think of it much since it seemed everyone knew her. As the night progressed she started becoming extra flirtatious and would grind on me. Again, didn't think much of it until one of the doctors we worked with joined us. Guess what? She's his wife. And even though he was right there and I would politely move away from her, she continued to try and grind on me. It wasn't a pleasant position to be in. Felt bad for the doc. At a company dinner with some potential clients, a wife of one of the clients had slipped out of her heels and had been running her foot up and down my leg and crotch like a scene from an 80s movie. I excused myself and went to the bar in the hope of evading her, only to have her follow a few minutes later and offer to push her husband into coming to us for his supplies if I'd be willing to help her with what she's been missing at home. She was drunk. Not unattractive. But I wasn't going for that. In order to get away from her I texted my boss and told him the guy's wife was hitting on me and that I was leaving. He texted back that I needed to take one for the team. With a smiley face after. Not hardly the first time I'd been hit on. But I just had a feeling she was well practiced in doing this and it was just creepy. Came here to tell the story about when I was 11 and an 18-year-old girl touched me places not even I had touched yet. Looks like I wasn't the only one. Sorry about what happened to you guys. Married woman playing footsies with me under the table while her husband was sitting there. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, and as I was leaving she stopped me and started kissing me. I stopped her and she started telling me how unhappy she was with her husband, etc. I was out and her husband was a cop fighting cancer, so hell no. My mum used to punch us when we were young. Mostly in the face and head from what I recall. From 5 or 6 up until we were teens. I guess that counts. I used to work with this girl. She was my age, fresh out of college. And I had been working in our industry for 5 years at the time. But technically she was my superior. We got into a lot of arguments about delegation of work, efficiency, etc. Not at all friendly stuff. I'm a pretty blunt and abrasive person. But towards the end of her shift she would always get drunk. And then she couldn't get enough of me, groping me, pressing her tits on me. Very flirty and all. I never felt like I had to do anything and she was attractive, but I hated her personality and wasn't interested, so I complained to our mutual boss, S, at the time, and they told me I wish she'd do that to me and I should consider myself lucky. Certainly made me uncomfortable. She got canned eventually for totally unrelated reasons. I worked on a pub crawl for 2 years in my early 20s. I saw a lot of drunk people and I mingled with them quite a bit. A lot of women, mainly older, would slap my butt and smile or try and gave me a kiss when they drank too much. I remember one pretty distinctly though. This older woman, probably in her mid-40s, was trying to chat me up all night. She was even following me around the bar when I was talking to other people. By the end of the night, when she had acquired enough liquid courage, she came up to me. She straight up open palm grabbed my package and whispered, "Is that a sock you got in there?" Leaned back and smiled. It was beyond uncomfortable and I avoided her the rest of the night. Went on a date a couple months and the girl showed up absolutely hammered. Okay, that's a deal breaker. But I didn't think she was a bad person. Yet. She spills a wine glass, breaks a plate, screams the F word countless times in the restaurant we're in, and knocks into a guy that while going to the bathroom. Then she asks me if I wanted to frick in the bathroom. I said no. I'll get you a cab and you can get home. Then she starts crying and screaming at me. I've never been more uncomfortable in my life. I arrested a woman for drunk and disorderly at a popular beach bar. She had urinated all over herself, so wrapped her in a casualty blanket so she wouldn't destroy my patrol interior. The entire time she was telling me she'll frick the ticket away and proclaiming her oral ability. We used pickup trucks for patrols, so we had to secure front-cuffed prisoners to a pair of leg irons that were hooked to an eye bolt in place of one of the seat brackets. It was less than ideal, but we needed four-wheel drive and SUVs were just kind of coming to market, 1982. So we made it work. As I began to take her to town for processing, she managed to get her hand in the casualty sheet and began smearing body fluids on my dash and side window. I pulled over and called for a second officer in a cage car as I didn't want any questions. Soon as he arrived at my location, she began screaming rape and calling me a faggot, because no real man can resist her. A crowd formed on the bar's outdoor deck with her urging them on to about 50 people calling me a faggot, and then began wiggling in my front seat to reveal her chest. Things were getting dangerous, so we loaded her in the cage double speed and ran. Once down the road we had a matron from the jail meet us. She sorted the prison right out and they went to processing. It wasn't the name calling or mess. It's the way she fired everyone up and basically incited a riot that got me on edge. So many could have been hurt because of one idiot and I was stuck in the middle. I don't care what consenting adults do, but when you draw others into the party and put them at risk, it makes me angry and very uncomfortable. She ended up getting 21 days. Inciting public and lewd acts were the high charges, and public and failure to follow order cost her $2,500. I dropped the assault on peace officer as she would have lost her teaching certificate. In my experience, you don't realize how common this is until you open up about your experience to a friend or family member. I was fapped by a friend's mother in HS before I even knew what it was or touched myself. I think men generally feel a lot of shame around this or feel like it's embarrassing to feel like you didn't want a sexual advance. It's fricked up. My ex and I were sleeping and in the dead of night I rolled over from my left side to my right. And when I do, she's on her side and facing me. Her eyes are wide open looking at me. It startled the shit out of me. She was completely asleep. I even said her name and nothing. Not as serious as some of these replies, but definitely unsettling enough I remember it years later. In school, when I was 13, I had a girl keep grabbing my thighs, my biceps, non-existent really LMAO. And overall being flirty, I didn't think anything of it until a day when she just grabbed my dong out of nowhere through my pants and said she wanted to rape me. Interesting experience. I didn't report it or anything after being scared I would be called a pussy for not going through with it. She continues to actually get my number to this very day through a friend I assume and tell me she wants my babies and she still thinks of 13-year-old me. Bang. Eyeing her while she does the I am 18 now. She hasn't messaged me in months, which is good. But I'm sure she will eventually. I know it isn't anything serious or so I've been told. I don't want to act like this is the worst thing that could happen and guys have had it way worse. I haven't went to see anyone or actually told anyone of this in fear. I've dealt with it fine though for the remainder of the time since it's happened. Super creeped out and uncomfortable for the remainder of that year. Different kind of uncomfortable. She simply doesn't leave me alone and thinks we're friends, however would reply to my IG stories with mostly racist, degrading comments, spreads rumors about other PPL, and constantly tries to degrade people. People let her get away with it, because she has looks, but damn, it's the epitome of looks ain't shit. Co-worker got drunk on hard alcohol and antipsychotics, groped me, and went wanna frick me. She was desperately unattractive and not at all sober. I was embarrassed for her. That was uncomfy. P.S. She has a really unique username that she uses for everything, including Reddit, and anytime I tell this story, I'm tempted to tag her. My mother had zero sense of appropriate boundaries, that's all I'll say. I'd been on and off a dating site for a few years. I'd deactivate and reactivate the account every few months or years whenever I stopped dating a partner. There's one girl who would contact me, without fail, within 24 hours of reactivating. Every time, as the years went on, she would get more and more angry, more and more passive-aggressive. The most recent time was about a year ago and she went on a huge angry rant about how nice girls like her don't get a chance and I'm an asshole for not being interested. I told her for the last time, sorry, just not interested, and she blocked me. I haven't been back on the site since, but something tells me she would be there if I ever did. My stepmom's friend would always touch my wiener when I was in the pool. She would try to remove my swimsuit and I would try my best to get away. Nobody would believe me and caused me to go into depression again. I can no longer swim in pools, because it drives my anxiety up the wall. I was going to say how she was all over me, basically drooling, but there are others talking about rape, so mine seems insignificant. Oh yeah, when I was young I was friends with this girl that I may be related to. No one in my family truly knows, but in any case it was another cookout at grandma and I was staying the night with her, and my cousin. I was very antisocial and way more introverted than I am now, so when I was standing against the wall and she began dancing on me, twerking I guess, I had no idea what to do. I just kinda stood there until she went away. Very uncomfortable and cringy on many levels for sure. She also intentionally farted directly in my face once and I still remember the feeling of the blood rushing from my head. 0 out of 10 would not fart again. We met at a party and she very overtly rubbed her ass on my dong. That was fine actually, but just to let you know where this girl was comfortable, physically. Anyway, so I, being the gentleman I am, Take her out sometime later. We're at the bar, and she's telling me she's an alpha female. I don't buy into that paradigm in the first place, so I kinda chuckled and said that. When I turned to get another drink, she, maybe 5 FT, jumped on my back, 6 FT, wrapped her legs around my waist and tried to choke me out. So, there's a crowd of people watching this. I'm not about to body slam this 90-pound girl. I put my glass down, and slowly pried her arms away from my throat, and removed her. She later gave me a bloody nose, but that was a legitimate accident. Still hit. Please subscribe if you like the video. It really helps the channel to grow. Adios.